Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Reaction and Review Christmas Special. My God, guys, we are up to the 3rd annual Christmas Special. This is so awesome. And yes, guys, I still have the fancy Santa hat I bought for last year's special. This is awesome. Now, what movie do I have in store this year? Well, I found a black comedy from the Netherlands from 2010. That movie is Saint Nick. Now, I do know that overseas, it actually goes by a different title, and that title is Saint, or, well, Sint, if you are in the Netherlands. Sadly, that is all that I know. I have not found a trailer for this thing. I don't know what the plot is. The only thing I know is that it's a dark comedy, and that it's from the Netherlands, and it's Christmassy in nature. And I'm going to tell you right now, I love dark Christmas films, alright? Because some of my favorites are things such as Santa's Sleigh, and the first 2 Silent Night, Deadly Night movies, and Bad Santa. This is my kind of thing. So I really think that this thing has a strong possibility of being really good to me. However, I also know that when you are working with, Christmas movies, you can totally screw this up in a horrible way. So this could also very well be a huge piece of crap. But the only way I'm going to find out whether or not this thing is any good or not is if I shut up and I push play, and I'm going to do that right now. So, without further ado, it's time to kick back, relax, and check out Saint Nick. Hang on a sec. Hang on. Wait. So, let me see if I understand this. So, Nicholas and his band of raiders, on a full moon in December, decide to go through and just loot this small town. I know for a fact that they had somebody in one of the bags that they had. So they had kidnapped somebody. The townspeople, as a way to fight back, decide to burn the boat down. So I'm going to assume that whoever was in that bag is dead. Good on you, guys. Just way honestly to show that you are totally cool with senselessly murdering those who've been kidnapped from your village. That made a whole host of sense. Okay, I totally understand that being a cop would keep you, on edge, but somebody left like a Christmas present on my desk? I really don't think that shooting it would be the first thing I would do. Just saying. Okay, guys, I have to ask a question, and perhaps maybe it has to do with my absolute blithering ignorance of the whole, Saint Nicholas celebration thing, but why is it every time I see somebody who's dressed up as Saint Nicholas, he always has a couple of helpers, assistants, what have you, and they're in blackface? I mean, I can totally understand, but why in blackface? That just seems horrifically offensive. Then again, I think that's really only offensive in the US, but still, it just seems fucking weird to me, man. Okay, I have a big question, because this is kind of bugging me now. Alright, why is it that Nicholas and his entire crew all look like horrible burn victims? First of all, I don't mind that they look like burn victims, because, well, we saw they were burned alive at the very start of the film. But why doesn't his horse look like a burn victim? Were they just unable to get makeup on the horse, or did, Nicholas get a new horse after the first one died in the ship fire? Moreover, how did everyone else live but the horse not live? That horse is really posing a lot of questions, guys. Okay, guys, I am now going to, draw my previous statement, because we just got to see, a close-up of the horse. They actually did put, burn, makeup on the horse. So, okay, at least now that answers a whole lot of the questions I had earlier, so just sort of thought I would let you guys know they actually did clarify my questions. That's awesome. Okay, hang on. I know this movie started with Nicholas and his band of, thieves and renegades, what have you, were all burned alive. Now, this guy thinks that the way to lift the whole curse is to blow the boat up? I'm sorry, but if setting it on fire didn't fucking work, I really don't think that blowing it to pieces is going to do much better. Of course, I'm probably going to be proven wrong. It just doesn't seem like the soundest plan to me, you know what I mean? Okay, that is probably one of the coolest beheadings I've ever seen in any movie, guys. That was fucking awesome. Well, guys, that was Saint Nick, and I'm going to tell you, this closing credits song is really cool. Actually, I am kind of digging that. In fact, I could probably listen to this for quite a while, but you know, I'm not going to. Let me shut that off. So, I guess before I get into the review, I should mention, and I think I mentioned this earlier in the video, I know almost nothing about the whole, like, St. Nicholas celebration and all the stuff that goes into it, because I didn't celebrate that as a kid, okay? I really didn't. See, in fact, when I was in grade school, there were like a couple of students I knew, like a couple of my like fellow classmates who celebrated it, but none of us really knew anything about it because we never asked about details or any of that, and we were never taught that. So, let me just say this: I kind of went into this one a little bit blind. In fact, partially, again, because over here in the U.S., St. Nick and Santa Claus usually mean the same thing. I genuinely thought this was going to be another horror movie about some kind of a killer Santa Claus. And honestly, I'm actually a little bit on the pleasantly fucking surprised side to see that that wasn't the case. I got something a little bit different, which is awesome. Now that I've kind of prefaced that, let's get right into the review itself. Let's start with writing. Writing here is pretty good. I would like to say first off that there are a couple of minor points that I have to kind of question. One of them, and I know for a fact I mentioned it earlier, was the big plan to stop, Nicholas was to blow up his boat. Now, we see early on in the film, I'm talking within the first 5 minutes or so, we see the villagers burn down his boat, killing him and his entire crew. So, if burning them to a crisp just basically got them mad, what the hell is blowing the boat up going to do? Again, that's just something I'm kind of wondering. I'm also wondering exactly where the hell Nicholas and his crew and his horse even came from, because we are never really told if they basically just, like rose out of the ocean, or if they came, or if they came from hell. We don't really know if they're zombies or if they're demons, or we don't know what the hell they are necessarily, because the movie doesn't really explain that, which again is probably a good thing, because that really does add a nice little aura of mystery to everything, which I am all for. It's just that, that is probably going to bother a couple of people, and I just kind of want to make it, I just sort of want to make it known that might bother a few people. Now, as for character depth, you know what, guys? Horror movies, you are not asking for mountains and mountains of character depth. You honestly are just asking for enough to care about these characters. And sure enough, this movie gives you just that and nothing more. Mind you, I'm basing that on the subtitles, and I'll be talking about the subtitle thing in just a sec. But still, characters here are fleshed out as far as they need to be. And to be totally honest with you, they could probably have fleshed them out a little bit more, and it might have helped out the film slightly. Because honest to God, guys, for a movie that clocks in at just shy of 90 minutes, it really does feel as if there's not a whole lot going on. Which seriously is not a bad thing. I mean, it is still a good movie. It's just, it kind of feels a little bit, like sparse at times, and perhaps maybe just trying to flesh out these characters, or maybe showing Nicholas's like rampage through the city might actually have helped that out a little bit. Again, I'm just saying it is just a little note from me. As for dialogue, dialogue here is pretty good. Again, I'm basing that on the subtitles. I have no earthly clue how close those subtitles are, because I do not speak, Dutch. However, though, I can tell you that a whole lot of it's accurate, because about a third of the dialogue or so is spoken in English. So at least, I'm sort of able to, like paw around a little bit. I still have to rely on the subtitles for most of it. So anyway, like dialogue here is good. Acting. Well, again, I do not speak Dutch. I am not about to pretend that I do. However, though, just basically from the sound, the acting sounded pretty good, and of course, also everybody looked, fairly, decent in terms of like facial expression and body language. Everything there worked, and again, the acting seemed to work well, enough for me, so I'm not going to gripe on that too much. Now, I would like to talk about the dub for this thing, because yes, there is an English dub for this movie. I had it on for the first about 6 minutes of the movie. The dub on this thing is absolutely hideous, and it is bad in every respect. I am talking the acting. What very, very little is in that opening 6 minutes is atrocious, and the sound quality on the dub is incredibly tinny and shit. So believe me, I did something I don't normally do when I'm watching these movies. I went back and I turned on the Dutch audio and the English subtitles because the dub drove me the fuck away. That is saying a lot, guys. It is really saying a lot when I have to go and start fucking around with audio options as the movie's going because the dub on something is that bad. As for the subtitles, this, again, is just more a note for, what company made this. I believe it was, or rather, what company, I mean, like, put it out in the US. I believe it was IFC. Their subtitles, I don't know what font they used, but the font looks, a little iffy. I think maybe it's because a whole lot of other companies, when they start using, like, subtitles, they use, font whose letters are a little bit thicker, and it kind of helps them, like, stand out a little bit. Like, subtitles here, they just happen to look a little bit cheap and slightly off. Mind you now, they are, still readable. It's just, they look kind of cheapy and they really do almost look as if they were, like, tacked on at the absolute last second. It still isn't going to horribly, impact your viewing, experience. But again, it is something I kind of feel that has to be mentioned, is just that the subtitles just look kind of ugly. And especially since if you're someone who doesn't speak, Dutch, and you're going to be staring at the lower, at the lower, quarter of the screen for most of it to read the subtitles, ugly subtitles are going to be a huge turnoff for some people. Again, I just wanted to mention that. Special effects. I want to say right now that the special effects in this movie are fucking amazing, okay? I would like to say that, makeup effects especially. I want to talk about the horse before I talk about anything else, because the first few shots you see of the horse is covered in mist and everything else, and the horse looks basically like a normal horse, which is why I asked why everybody else looked like fucking burn, victims, and the horse didn't. And then you finally get to see a close-up shot of the horse, and they have fantastic makeup on that horse. They actually have, like, scarring and burn marks. The horse looks the best out of everybody, which, mind you guys, that seriously is not me knocking the makeup on everybody else. That is just me talking about what kind of a badass job they did putting burn makeup on this horse. When, once you finally get to see it, it looks amazing. And the makeup on everybody else, the makeup on Nicholas and his crew also looks great. So, I mean, I just want to say, guys, that makeup-wise, everything here is awesome. And as for actual special effects, there is a whole lot of CG. In fact, there is a shot where it's Nicholas and his horse, and they are running on rooftops. The whole thing is done in CG, and it looks awesome. There are also some fantastic use of gore. I stated it earlier. I'm going to say it again. This movie has one of the most creative and awesome looking beheadings I've ever seen in any movie. Which, mind you, that probably sounds incredibly dark. I'm talking about awesome looking fucking headings, but this one certainly had an awesome looking beheading. I'm just going to say it. Now, I will talk about one thing when it comes to effects, and it is when the horse is shot. because there is a moment when the horse is shot, and the horse goes incredibly stiff. And you can clearly tell at these moments that they are just using a stuffed horse. It looks really cheap, it looks kind of horrible. However, though, to be totally fair, everything, and I mean everything, involving the stuffed horse lasts maybe 45, maybe 50 seconds. It really isn't a huge thing. However, it is something which is probably going to be noticed by a few people, and they might be turned off by it. But ultimately, guys, special effects here are amazing. Now, soundtrack. I talked about the song that played over the closing credits. That really is about the only memorable song I found that did not sound like traditional Christmas music. And if you are a fan of actually, I don't think it'd be Christmas music in this instance. So if you're a fan of traditional holiday music, you are going to have no problems with the soundtrack here. And that closing song, again, perhaps honestly, it's just because I am into heavier stuff, it sounded fucking fantastic. So, you know. Music here is pretty good. Camera work here is good. And the lighting here is good. Guys, when all is said and done, am I able to recommend Saint Nick or Saint or Sint or whatever it's called in your part of the world? Yes, I highly recommend you guys go and at least give this thing a single viewing. Because really, this movie is like one of those weird cases where it's kind of where it's kind of sort of, you know, like where it's kind of on the fence, where it has very like subtle humor, and that doesn't always go over with people, and the horror minus a handful of jump scares also is incredibly subtle. And I know a lot of people are not really into subtle until they start, you know, like chopping off heads and cutting people in half and all that. But still, a lot of things here are done in a very subtle fashion, and a lot of people are usually turned off by that. So I do have to warn of that. However, I would still say, like, give it a shot, because you still might find something cool here. Honestly, guys, that really is about the best I can say is you have to at least give this thing a viewing once. And the good news is, this movie is on Netflix. I didn't, watch it on Netflix, but I do know that it is there. Swing over there and check it out, guys. This movie is, again, it is totally worth at least checking out once. I just have to warn you that it might not be for everybody, but it is certainly a nice little mindless popcorn holiday film. You can just pop it in, watch it. Well, I probably would not recommend watching it, with children, but it is still something that is just a nice little holiday horror, film, and I always enjoy those. So yes, guys, once more, this thing is totally on Netflix. Go over there, check it out. You can probably find it on say Amazon or eBay really cheap. So yeah, you guys have just got to find a way to watch this and check it out. In fact, hell, if somebody has uploaded it on YouTube, go right ahead and give it a watch there. But I also have to warn, if the only thing they have is the dub, you're probably going to quit after about 6 minutes, because God knows that I did. But hey, who knows? Perhaps honestly, perhaps honestly, the only option you guys will have is the dub, and you will be able to power through it a hell of a lot better than I failed to. So anyway, guys, yes, with that we come to the close of the Reaction and Review Christmas special. And ladies and gentlemen, Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night.